We're back today. Welcome to Mission Bound, and we're going to have a whole lot of fun. We're talking a little bit of sports. We're talking life. We're talking radio. My name is Tom, and I've got
Mike, who?
Yes, Mike James, former NBA champion 2004 with the Detroit Pistons, a good friend of mine, and we're doing this podcast because, man, we got a lot to talk about. But today we have an amazing special guest with us that's on the show, and I've been a fan of this guy for years. I loved him when he played with the Pistons. I loved him when he was with the Nuggets. I didn't love him with the Knicks, but I loved him with the Clippers after that. It's Chauncy Billups, and Mike, he is a friend of yours, and he played with you, right? You guys were teammates.
Yes.
So let's welcome Chauncey to the screen. Thank you, Chauncey, for hanging out with us, man, on Mission Bound.
Absolutely. Congrats to you guys on Mission Bound. I'm sorry, by the way, but I'm happy to be here. You know, anything for my brother Mike James, my championship brother forever. Anything he's doing, I'm going to support it. So thank you for having me.
Chauncey, that's a gift having you here today. So you and Mike, you guys were on that 2004 championship team. Real quick, we'll get into your story because your story is intriguing and interesting, and you've done basketball on a bunch of different levels. But let's just talk about Mike for a minute. What is your best Mike James story? Just embarrass the co-host, share something that his wife doesn't know.
Start right off the back.
We're just coming in like, give it to me.
Man, there's first and foremost, let me just say this. There's so many great Mike James stories, but
1 to 5,
I guess the one
story
that I would share is one time, first of all, I got to give Mike a lot of credit because in 2004, we came together, after he was traded there. And Mike he's so competitive, and he was such a stinking good player. And Mike actually made me better every day because he went after me every single day in practice. And
did you ever feel like he wanted your job?
No, I didn't think that, but I know that Mike probably thought, and as he should, that he was just as good as me, and the team would.
But you know what?
That's.
I will say this though. I will say this about that situation, Chauncey, is that when I was there, I wanted to come back to Detroit and play backup, behind you. Like, you was one of those guards that not only did I want to compete against, but even in my competition, it was just to make you better. It was never trying to take something from you. I was like, man, I was just being a part of that team. I was just excited, like, being
Time out.
there.
You didn't ever want his job? Of course you wanted his job.
Okay, you know what I did say? I did say this, though. When we won the NBA championship, and I can remember we were about to hug by half court. Okay. And that feeling was so amazing in that moment. I looked at him and said, man, I want my own. Like, because I was so happy for him. Like, being able to hear his story of how his story from the past to get where he's at now. And here it is, he's winning this championship. I was awed. I was like, man, if God can do that for him, I already know I'm going to get my own team and I'm going to win me a chip too. Like, I want my own chip. Like,
that fired you up, didn't it?
Man, it moved me in a different way because of watching how he was and watching how professional he was. Yeah. So even in, like a story just...
But then you went to the Bucks, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there it was. so that happened.
Yeah, exactly.
So the journey was like this. You were going uphill.
After Detroit, it went downhill from there. Exactly.
So Chauncey, man, real quick, give us your best Mike James story, and then we're going to go all about you, man.
So it was funny one time. So, I was we practiced so hard against each other, like I was saying. So one day, Rip and Sheed and Ben got together, and we had the video guys put together this tape of Mike James, and it was all like...
Was it highlight reels?
No.
It was a low light reel. It was actually a low light reel, and it was all bloopers, turnovers, bad shots. And we got the whole team in there like we was about to have a serious film session, and we let it run. And it was the funniest thing ever.
It was not the funniest thing ever.
We already knew what his reaction would be. That's why it was so funny. But when I tell you, when we went out to practice, this dude tried to kill me, Rip, man. Like, it was But he took it so personal, and it was a joke. It was so much fun, though. So much fun.
So how long was this reel? Was it like 30 seconds, a minute?
5 minute. It was a 5-minute.
5 minutes, all your failures?
It was probably a 3-4 minute reel.
Yeah. But you know what the funny thing is that like every day in practice, I used to be like, man, I used to kill y'all when we used to play against each other. And Rip and Chauncey like, man, you ain't do nothing, Mike. So it was like, so we used to do this like every single day. And then it was the last practice before the first round of the playoffs. So, you know, Larry Brown is talking to us about what we got to do and, you know, against Milwaukee. And we like, you know, so then Rip and Chauncey was like, hey, guys, like we got this serious meeting. Yo, we got an all teammates meeting. You guys need to go in the locker room right now, and you know, let's talk about this. So I'm like, all right, like, okay, this is gonna be a serious meeting right now.
And it was 5 minutes of your failures.
I'm sitting there just watching it, like, ooh, and everybody is in tears, rolling around the ground, and I'm just over there just steaming.
Was Sheed yelling like the ball don't lie? Was he yelling that left and right?
No, everybody was laughing, and it was definitely some good. It was definitely entertaining, but. You know what?
That was awesome.
No ill will, no pun intended, no feelings hurt. It was still like, you know what? That was just my big brother, like taking advantage of it. The joke is on me, ha 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 ha. But that's how far it went.
That's amazing.
It didn't go no further than that. You know, it wasn't no.
So you guys knew where the line was. You weren't trying to cripple his ego, but you just wanted to remind him his place, right?
Well, you know what it is. You know, you go into the playoffs, and it's such a highly pressured situation. Our team is good. We're expected to get there, so you need moments like where you can like take a load off and have fun and enjoy and understand that it's forget the pressure. Like this is still basketball. We still friends. So. It's things like that keep it loose, you know, and he was just the guy that day.
And the joke
he was just
me.
the pawn right there.
Yeah.
He was the tool in the tool belt. I understand. So, Chauncey, tell me a little bit about you. Had an illustrious career. You played with the Celtics, Raptors, Nuggets, Magic, T-Wolves, Pistons, Nuggets, Clippers, Knicks, Clippers, Pistons. Of all of those teams, I'm sure you're going to say Pistons was your favorite. I'm sure you are. I mean, that would make the sense. What was your second favorite and why?
You're right about the first one. I mean, my Detroit years were the highlight of my career and almost my life, you know.
Did you know that? Did you know that when you were there? Did you realize like this could be the top of the roller coaster, so to speak?
Well, sure. When we win the championship, you know, you come from what I came through to go win the championship and lead the squad to the championship. I was certain that it couldn't get better than that. Maybe we could stay at that level for a little while, but there's no way it could get better than that. But my second best, to answer your question, was my couple years in Denver the second time around. When I left Detroit, it was a big challenge for me. That team has so much talent. I mean, a ton of talent. That just.
And who did you play with on that team? Who were the? Wasn't Melo on that team?
It was Carmelo. It was Kmart. It was J.R. Smith, Birdman, Nene.
You know, Nene played down here in the Rockets for a while.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So
for a few
when you
years.
Just listed those names off, I felt like, and I'm not. Three of those guys could get in a fight at any given moment, is what I felt like. Like you got some like attitude there, right? Did you come in?
That was the beautiful thing about it, though, Tom. You know, and I was ready for it because the team that Mike and I played on, there wasn't a tougher team in the league than ours. You know, and we weren't looking to go fight people, but I think everybody knew that if it went a certain direction, that wasn't what they wanted to do with our team. So Denver was similar, but it was just like wild dogs. Like they weren't tamed. You know?
Right.
And they just needed a leader. They just basically needed a leader. And at that time, I was still probably at the end of my prime, where I was still a good player, but I couldn't like be the guy. So having Melo was perfect. I needed him. He needed me. Yep. And it was one of my most fun leading experiences because that team hadn't won one. They'd been to the playoffs 8 straight seasons, okay, and they had never won more than one game in the first round in 8 years. And they had AI and Melo. They had all the talent that you could possibly have. George Karl, the coach, and
what did you think of George Karl, the coach?
Huh?
What do you think of George Karl as a coach? Just curious.
Let me finish my first answer first, and then I'll get to that. But yeah, they hadn't won. They had won one game, man. One game. Okay. And then we go to the Western Conference Finals that first year. So it was a great experience. It was a lot of fun. That was my second best. But George Karl, he was a good coach, but George, he let the inmates run the yard. You know, it wasn't enough discipline, in my opinion. And that's the reason why they needed a leader, and they hadn't won more than one game in the first round because there was just no discipline there. So he had a great offensive mind. He's fun to play for because you can pretty much do whatever you want, but doing whatever you want don't always win.
And so what did you bring to that team? So you said I chose to be the leader. What kind of things did you have to say, hey, this is what we're doing?
Yeah. Well, I think better practice habits. You know, the first practice that I went to when I was there, 3 or 4 dudes sat out, not because they was hurt, they just didn't want to practice. 2 dudes had earrings on. 1 dude had his shoes untied. Like, the practices were unbelievable. So I knew right away what the issues were. And so just sitting down, talking to guys and, you know, sharing them some of my experiences with, as Mike would tell you, like, some of our best games were in practice. We competed so hard in practice, and it made the games easy. So sharing some of those experiences, guys started to practice, guys started to be competitive. And so just some stability. I brought some stability and some leadership, and I was able to, like, you know, hold guys accountable, you know, and call guys out. And I'm also a guy that was willing to take that as well when I wasn't on top of my game. So they hadn't seen that before, and that changed a lot.
So tell me a little bit, what have you learned as a leader through all of these experiences? Because I imagine you're a radically different leader than when you came in the league than when you finally ended the league. What'd you learn as a leader?
Well, you just learn so much, Tom. I mean, to be honest with you, you know, you have to become a really good follower and a smart follower before you can be a great leader. And early in my career, when things weren't so stable, you know, I was lucky enough to be around a couple of really, really good, valuable veteran dudes like Sam Mitchell, who I know Mike is not very fond of, and Terrell Brandon, you know, was good, and Brian Stith, Dana Barrows, guys that weren't elite players except for Terrell, but they were just awesome dudes, and they taught me so much. So, you know, to answer that, I mean, the things that I learned as first and foremost as a leader is you have to hold yourself to a higher standard than you hold the guys that you want to lead, you know, and you have to raise your hand first when you screw up or when you turn it over or when you miss a coverage or you miss you have to raise your hand first, take responsibility, and things like that. And you really have to, as a leader, you really have to get to know these dudes because everybody is led differently. You know, everybody's different. Everybody's ego is different. Their emotions are different. You know, I could say things to Mike and Rip that I would say differently to Ben, to Tay, or to Sheed, or to Lindsay. Like, it's just different.
Could you give me an example of that? How could you speak to Mike and maybe not to Tay, Tayshaun Prince?
Well, Tay is, like, for instance, like the difference in personality in the two. Like Tay is very, very reserved, very quiet. You know, he's an introverted dude. You know, so when I come to Tay, I could come to Tay in this type of manner, this type of tone. Mike is a little different. Mike,
you could cuss me. What the heck
yes,
you doing?
indeed.
Get your daggone assignment. My bad.
Exactly. See, Mike is more he's more outgoing. Like in the heat of the battle, Mike is really, really intense, you know, and he's really locked in and focused. So I can be a little more outspoken with Mike. You know, I don't want to be down, calm, this and this with Mike. He's not going to respond to that as much as a Tayshaun would. So I got to know that. I got to get to know that. But not only with these two, with 12 other guys, you know, if you're going to be a very good leader.
So, Chauncey, you've had such an illustrious career, and you were Mr. Basketball. Mike was going through all the different awards, right, and the things that he's done. What's the one thing you're the most proud of?
Winning a championship. There's no question about it. In my basketball career, winning an NBA championship is the best. I mean, for me, I just always wanted to, I wanted to be one of the best in the league at my position. I wanted to be a proven winner, and it wasn't about all-stars and I didn't try to get the MVP in the finals. I just tried to play the game, follow the game plan, and just so happened I played well. There were other guys that deserved it. I didn't care about that. I wanted to be a champion because as Mike would tell you, like one time a champion, you're always a champion. Like you always, it don't matter when, we'll be dead and gone. Our great grandkids will be talking about, my great grandfather was an NBA champion. And that's all that really mattered to me.
You know what, Chauncey? You was talking about Sam Mitchell, and
why don't you like him again?
And I got to experience him from a different side. Sometimes you may have a player that may be a great player, a great leader, but that don't necessarily mean that it's going to carry over to being a great coach. And sometimes, and I think that one thing that he used to do was he never learned how to separate the player and the coach mindset and the mentality. And my question to you is, what does it take to make that transition? Because I know you've dabbled a little bit, talking about trying to make that transition over onto the other side of the of the field.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, Mike, one of the things is, and it's always tough, I can imagine, like letting the player go. We've always been players for so long, but once you cross over and onto the other side, they have to respect you a little differently, not as a player, but as a dude, as a man. I always felt like, there's a certain level of humility that you have to cross over, because when you do cross over, you're crossing over, and yes, it's basketball, but you're doing something that you've never done. And a lot of us, a lot of times, cross over and say, yeah, but I've been in the league for 15, 17 years. What do you mean I haven't done it? Well, it's just a different deal, so you have to have a level of humility to say, you know what, you're right. However, I can use my experiences and what I learned and what I was taught. But I have to back it down a little bit and say, you know what, let me try to learn it y'all's way. Because at the end of the day, if I can learn it their way, what they can't do is learn what I've been through.
There you go.
They can't do that. You know what I mean? So what can be taught, you can learn, but you have to be willing to learn it and take a back seat sometime and go ahead and learn it. But when you learn it, it's over with. And I think they understand that because there's something that we have that they can never get.
So in one of our previous episodes here, Chauncey, Mike literally said into the microphone, he said the reason that the Pistons did not win the next year that they got beat is because Mike was not on the team. He said that as a real comment.
But you will expect something to come out of my mouth like that, though. That's just
simple question: true or false? True or false? True or false?
You know what? I'm gonna be very honest right now, for real. I would agree with that, and I'm gonna tell you why, though. In that series, right? So we come off of a really tough series, Game 7 win in Miami on a Sunday night. Game 7 Eastern Conference Finals. The next game is Tuesday to open it up in San Antonio. Now, Rip, all the starters, we're really tired, okay? We don't have the same bench. We don't have the same team as the last year. And we get smacked in Game 1 and Game 2. And really, like, if we would have had somebody that could really score in the backcourt, like with me not playing great, and that could change the pace of the game. This is so crazy we're talking about this because me and Rip spoke about this before. But that could change the pace of the game and can really go get it, we would have been okay. We would have been just fine. We just needed to split those first two. And we didn't, and no disrespect to nobody else, but we just didn't have that. So I actually would agree with that.
I wasn't expecting you to go there, Chauncey, but I'm glad you did. That was really insightful.
See, I actually would agree with that. Yes.
From two different perspectives, but one truth. I like that. That was good. Very good.
But you know what? That season, man, I've never experienced basketball on that level, but I never knew that you can have friendships. I never knew that, you can enjoy your teammates, because other than that year, I never experienced what I experienced in Detroit with the Pistons team, and I played in the NBA 14 seasons.
You said that a few times. You said, man, we would all go out to eat together. In one of the previous podcasts, you said literally you went over to whose birthday had a 2-year-old birthday party?
It was like one of the kids, like Ben Wallace, like his son. We all was at the birthday party, and this is a 2-year-old's birthday party, and we just all there like supporting him. It had nothing to do with the child, but it had everything to do with us being a family.
That's cool.
You know, and that experience, man, is something that can't ever be duplicated.
Yeah, no, I agree. You know, and I always believe this. Like those relationships and those times that we would go to Sheeds for, New Year's Eve party, or my house for boxing parties, or birthday parties. Well, yeah, like watch boxing matches.
Oh, I thought you guys would go. Sorry, I thought you'd ring and you just like, let's beat the crud out of each other. That would have been awesome.
But those things correlate to the dance floor. You know, those relationships start to get closer and closer, and you know, you're actually on the floor, and you actually care about what happens to your buddy. Or, you know, we cheered so much. Rip and I always said, like, in that season, other starting teams guards, they would rather play against me and Rip than play against Mike and Lindsey. I mean, those dudes, and we were up on the bench cheering so hard, just like they were cheering for us. We were cheering for them, and all of that comes to me from just like the relationships that you build off of the floor.
You know, and Mike even said that when him and Lindsey would walk on the court, you and Rip would growl.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they like caged animals. Like we letting the caged animal out, just tell them just go. You know what I mean? Like
But you said that when you went to the Nuggets, they were like uncaged, like no leashes. Were these guys on leashes, or did they know their place? Or
nah, these dudes was on leashes. I mean, if you know anything about Larry Brown, you know these dudes they were tamed.
No, Larry Brown wasn't having it. He used to tell us that, listen, y'all not going to just shoot the ball. We already have two nuts out there between Rip and Chauncey. And so we started playing extremely tight defense because we really wanted to score.
There was no other opportunity.
One of the main ways we knew how to score was, man, let's trap and get steals. And Rip used to be the beneficiary every time.
Every time, man. So much fun, dog.
So you retired. You had a crazy good career, and in fact, one fun fact here, I'm reading it. Chauncy Billups is the only player in NBA history with a winning record against Michael Jordan,
Kobe Bryant, and LeBron James.
You have a winning record against 3 of basketball small G gods. Okay, small G gods. Okay, how do you feel about that? When I read that to you, how does that make you feel?
I mean, it makes me feel awesome. It makes me feel accomplished. I mean, especially for a guy like me who I wasn't playing for stats. I just felt as a point guard, you know, the best thing you could do is try to win.
Yep.
Because a lot of times you don't get to shoot as much as you would like. I was a scoring point guard, and Mike will tell you, like, I that whole season, I don't think Larry Brown called one play for me. I just had to go figure it out. I just did what I had to do, you know, but to answer that, man, it makes me feel really good to know that, because that's all I cared about was just trying to win.
So lastly, first of all, 2 things. If Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, which one, if you just totally took them and just like destroyed them in a one-on-one game, would you feel the most accomplished with? If you could,
Jordan is the greatest, so MJ.
Enough said. Moving on. All right.
You see how easy and quick that was?
That was way simpler than I thought. I thought I created tension. No tension in that question at all. Here's a question, hopefully a little bit of attention. Your name gets dropped a lot lately for GMs. And, you know, you've probably had a few interviews, right?
Yeah, I have had a few interviews, and that was certainly, I can't say was, it still is the desire of mine. I can say it's changing a little bit. I'm thinking more about the coaching route, to be honest with you.
Come on.
Yeah, for the first time, it's probably been about a year or so when I started thinking about it, because as I sit back and really take a deep dive, I just kind of feel like my gift has always been, you know, being able to pour into a guy every day, like touch a guy every day, like, you know, influence, help, mentor, teach, coach. And what I found in my interviews and my deep dives and the front office stuff is, as a GM, you can't really do that. You have to allow the coach to do that, and you don't want to step over the coach to do that. And so that was the only one thing that I didn't absolutely love about the whole front office and GM thing. And it's kind of, it hasn't turned me away from it. It's just open. I just opened up the opportunity and the door to the coaching thing.
So if they all paid the same, which clearly they don't, but if they all paid the same, GM, coach, or assistant coach, what would you choose today? If they all paid the exact same?
Probably coach.
And
Coach. And for that reason, there's also, some other reasons, as Mike would tell you, like, we get so used to, like, having our summers off, when the season's over with, and being able to reconnect with the fam and, and spend time with your wife and things like that. As a coach, you can do that. As a front office person, you really don't have that time off.
So which team right now would you love to coach?
If
I don't have a team, to be honest with you. To be honest with you, it's more about having an opportunity to win, and the talent on the team, as opposed to the franchise, the organization, the city. You don't. The city never matters because you're only there you're not really there. The family lives there. We live on the road, so you're not really there that much. So that really doesn't matter. I just think being around some talented players that are focused and you can try to help win is more important than anything else.
Chauncey, what style would you think that you would try to emulate as a coach? Like the coaches that you look at and you value and appreciate?
Yeah, that's a good question, Mike. I think for me now, you have to score the basketball. You have to get up and down, and get get the ball in the basket. I mean, it's almost 100% the opposite of the way that we played when we won a championship. But like right now, you got to get up and down and play fast. You got to shoot a ton of threes. But for me, I would be very I'd be very serious about executing on offense. And not slow, but just like out of timeouts, in the game situations, starter quarters, things like that. Like being able to get wide open shots like the Doc Rivers can do, and T. Lou's and Popovich's and Brad Stevens. Out of timeouts, dudes get a wide open shot all the time, and they run their plays really hard and really crisp. So I would be more on that, and also obviously, there's going to be a level of defense as far as your principles and concepts that I always, just believe in.
Now, let me ask you this also. I know there's been a lot of championship teams, and there's been stories that we've told that you guys think that the '04 team is not only the greatest five, the greatest five that has ever played the game together. Do you believe that?
There's been some great teams. I would say that I believe that we were the best defensive team that's done it. If you look at our numbers and what we've done, I would say that I think our offense per se was horrible, man.
True. We ain't run no plays.
Our offense was terrible, man. We just came down and ran two chests and flopped every single play. And we had so many weapons. Like, we could have ran so many great plays, man, getting the ball to Sheed or, pick and roll stuff for us, or it could have been so much better. But to answer that question, I think defensively, I'll hang my hat on that. Like, we were elite. We were as good as it could ever get.
So what would you think we would have done against, like, the Golden State Warriors, today's Golden State Warriors?
Well, I think with KD on that Warriors team, we would have had a tough go. We'd had a tough go because, I mean, without KD, when they had Steph and Clay and Iggy and Harrison Barnes and them, I think we smacked them. I get into this with Draymond all the time, by the way. We talk stuff about this all the time. But I think we would have beat them, but also we wouldn't have been able to play that slow down ball like we played then, though. We would have had to pick it up. But the thing is, we had the talent and the personnel to do it. We didn't have to go get it somewhere. We already had it. We just would have had to pick it up a little bit, and that would have been easy to do.
That's amazing. So Chauncey, you've been great. Thank you so much for being on air. Mike and I are honored to have you guys, and it's fun to watch your friendship and sharing that Mike James story of his low light reel. Could I get a copy of that? Is that possible?
Ooh, I wish I had a copy of that right now.
If we could
I knew you was going to go to that story as well.
If we could get that.
What I want to know is, what's your handicap right now, bro?
I'm about an 8.
Ooh.
Yeah, this ain't what you want, Chauncey.
Ooh, no, I do want that.
Really?
Yeah, you might have to give me a couple, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not going to take them. We're going to play straight up.
Okay. I'm pretty sure you're about a 10, 12.
I'm 11. I'm 11.
Okay.
This whole podcast
So
is getting interesting. You guys, this is about to go get personal on you guys.
We gotta make sure that we make a trip real soon, man, either to Denver or to Houston.
Let's definitely do it, man. I love you, man. I'm happy and proud of you, bro.
Thank you. I love you, man. Appreciate you, Chauncey.
Thank you, Chauncey.
Hey, Tom, it's good to meet you, man, and good luck with Mission Bound. That's beautiful.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
All right. Peace.
All right, that's it. That is Mission Bound today. That was fun hanging out with Chauncey. Hey, we're going to be back, and thank you for hanging out with us. Mike James, NBA champion. My name's Tom, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So come back, and we will talk to you guys soon. Have a fantastic day. Later, guys.